as tired as I may be after our Tikkun Leil Shavuot last night, which finished around 1 o'clock in the morning. I wanted to record my pre-Shabbat message today because I'm always a different person before the Tikkun Leil and after the Tikkun Leil. For 7.5 hours we gathered together and studied and ate, including cheesecake. And we learned a lot. This year's theme, we've had the Tikkun Leil since 2015. We've had various different topics over the years, from wrestling with God to tradition and change to differing perspectives on Genesis chapter 1. One year we looked at prayer and kavanah. What does intentionality mean? Because there are differing understandings of it. We looked one year at Perek Shirah, at this wonderful text which gives a voice to different aspects of creation. The frog says this, the tree says this, the clouds say this. We spent a whole evening studying that. This year, our Tikkun Leil Shavuot theme was on Refuah Shlema, on a complete healing of body and soul. And healing is really important. We looked particularly in the last session, last night, which finished, as I said, about 1 o'clock, at the difference between praying for healing and praying for a cure. Looking at the thesis by Rabbi Miriam Berger from the UK, who, when she wrote her thesis in 2006, her mother had passed away from cancer only fairly recently. And so her thesis is really an inspired piece of work, looking at the difference between praying for a cure and praying for healing, which healing for her is navigating our way through illness, even if that means coming to the point of death. Healing is not asking God, dear God, you gave me cancer, please actually change your mind, or you gave this person a terrible disease, please change your mind. That's not a prayer for healing, that's a prayer for a cure. And Rabbi Miriam really brings out the important difference there, and in the end actually writes a new prayer for healing that she feels would be more appropriate in our service. And who is the prayer for healing actually for? And she looked at that in terms of mental health, in terms of the person who is providing support and the person who needs support. It was a very powerful exploration. It was really important for me to be able to share and learn about a colleague's thesis. Particularly, though, I was moved by our second session. I was moved throughout the whole evening and learned a lot, actually. But the second session on mental health was a really important conversation because we tend not to talk about mental health much in the Jewish community, even though Jews experience mental health challenges at exactly the same rate as the rest of society. And even when we look at biblical characters, as we did last night, we see real expressions of mental health challenges. We see Hannah, for example, struggling with depression after being bullied for her infertility, and her husband Elkanah not knowing how to respond, saying, "Come on, Hannah, aren't I worth more than 10 sons to you? Come on, cheer up, love. At least we're married. You can't be sad about that." And he clearly doesn't understand how to talk about mental health. He clearly doesn't understand what she's going through. We looked at the prophet Elijah in the first book of Kings in chapter 19, who is just so done in. He's so beaten down mentally that he prays to die, that he separates himself from the rest of society and then lies down under a broom bush and hopes to die. And instead an angel comes and says, "Okay, you've had a good sleep, now have a meal, now let's move on." And the angel accompanies him, and that's a really important aspect. Notice that Elijah, as somebody said, Elijah separated himself, and that's when his suicidal ideation essentially comes about. And so the angel accompanying him helps him to step away from that. And that's an important lesson for all of us as we help people who struggle with serious, severe depression. We looked at Jonah, and it was fascinating to explore Jonah. In chapter 4 of Jonah, twice he says, "I wish I were dead. I just want to die." And so being able to experience that narrative through a mental health perspective, for me, was unbelievably rewarding, and hearing the feedback and the thoughts of others on this was unbelievably rewarding for me. And I think as we continue during Mental Health Awareness Month, I think it's going to be really important for us to continue to focus on this. My sermon this evening is based on a story called The Turkey Prince, written by Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav, whom a lot of people believe also struggled with depression. His way out of depression, that in his writings, is something that some people find very comforting and some people find extremely challenging. And it was really important for me as a community rabbi to be able to explore that in community and to get a sense of where other people are with Rabbi Nachman's writings. But he wrote a really important story about the Turkey Prince, which I'll be sharing this evening, and so we can continue our exploration of mental health during Mental Health Awareness Month. And for the last couple of weeks, I've been sharing a prayer. And this prayer comes from Illness and Health in the Jewish tradition. It's an anonymous prayer, so I'm sorry that I can't share who it was who wrote it. But for me, I think it's a really important prayer about mental health. I asked God for health that I might do great things. I was given infirmity that I might do better things. I asked for strength that I might lead. I was given weakness that I might learn humbly to obey. I asked for riches that I might be happy. I was given poverty that I might be wise. I asked for power that I might have the praise of people. I was given weakness that I might feel the need of God. I asked for all the things that I might enjoy life. I was given life that I might enjoy all things. I got nothing that I asked for, but everything that I hoped for. Almost despite myself, my unspoken prayers were answered. I am, among all people, most richly blessed. This is a challenging reading, perhaps more a reading than a prayer, a reflection, because we were looking in particular at reframing, at what does it mean to view things in different ways when we are struggling with negative, perhaps even harmful thoughts. What does it mean to turn around and say, well, actually, this could be viewed in a positive way? And that's really important not to Elkanah the situation, not to turn around and say, cheer up, love, it's all good, because it's not necessarily. But rather, for us to be able to say, even in this, I might be able to find blessing. And that's a different kind of reframing. And being able to help others reframe is part of accompanying them on their mental health journey. And I suggested last night that God accompanies Jonah on his mental health journey by asking two questions, the same question twice. Are you right to be this deeply aggrieved? And at one point Jonah says, yeah, I am actually. The second time, God asks the question, but doesn't give Jonah space to answer because God adds a different perspective. You think this is all you care about? The gourd that's grown up and died, that you didn't care about, you didn't grow, you had no investment in it. I have the people of Nineveh, thousands upon thousands of people. I'm going to care for them. There's a reframing that can be possible when it comes to mental health journeys. And so the story of the Turkey Prince tonight is also about reframing. I think as we go through Mental Health Awareness Month, I think it's going to be really important for us to continue to be there for people in need. To be able to look around. As somebody shared last night, they said that their own experience of mental health challenges, of depression, helped to make them more aware of others who might also be struggling. And so maybe our role as a community is to make sure that we can be there for each other, not to help necessarily find a cure, but to help people heal. And healing in body and in soul can sometimes just be about being there for each other, about hearing where they are and holding them, sometimes challenging them, as God does, perhaps in Jonah chapter 4, or sometimes just asking them to go deeper. Are you right to feel that way? Where's that coming from? To help give a bigger perspective. Mental health is a very serious issue. It's very important for us as a Jewish community today to pay attention to this. And I so appreciate the depth in which we explored mental health through Jewish texts last night. I'm sure there's going to be much more coming. I hope that you'll be able to join me this evening then for the service. It's myself and Jed again this evening. Jed will be accompanying. The sermon, as I say, is on Rabbi Nachman's story of the Turkey prince. And tomorrow's Torah study is a little mushuga. It's a little challenging. I'm not sure I understand these texts. It's called The Cure is Worse Than the Disease, and it's looking at rabbinic healing suggestions. What is it if you have an ailment? Rabbis in Talmud in particular suggest certain cures that make no sense in terms of medicine, but are clearly being suggested for good reason. And so we're going to explore together what those reasons are. And then, of course, also join us for our Shacharit service as well. So I hope to see you then, and I wish you Chag Sameach and Shabbat Shalom.